That's beautiful. So I invite you to join me in our opening prayer. We're in deep gratitude to be able to gather in community on this beautiful Easter morning. And we ask that we continue to be surrounded by unconditional love and that each of us emanate that towards our family, our friends, our community, our world. And I ask that we hear the words that Reverend Madge will share, and may they resonate with us in just the perfect way as we open our hearts and our minds to listen to this Easter message. And I say this in deep reverence and love and light. Amen. And I welcome Reverend Madge up.
There's just something about the beauty and the innocence of those beautiful young girls singing such a powerful song. So, anyway, Easter Sunday. Woof. So, as many of you might have had childhood experiences with Easter where you dress up and have a special dinner. And that's what, some people would go to church, not miss a Sunday. A lot. Jay used to talk about the ministers that would get so mad because some congregants would only show up on Easter and Christmas. I remember him being frustrated about that. But it is a special time to go, and it is a lovely holiday. So my family, we didn't go to church, but we did always have a new dress. My mother always made sure that my sister and I had a nice new dress, and then we always our new dress. We played outside all day, weather permitting. We didn't have change into play clothes. It was Easter, so we were outside all day playing in our Easter clothes, and we just felt so pretty and so special. That was my memories of Easter. So I want to talk today about Easter in a metaphysical way. In the traditional Easter that we know is a combination of the story of the resurrection and the pagan holiday of celebrating spring. So those two have been combined, just like Christmas has been combined with the traditions of that as well. And it's really beautiful. It's quite magical, and it weaves together quite nicely. But rather than talking about it in the traditional sense, I really want to talk the about Easter, um, of the metaphysical aspects of it. So I want to look at the wisdom and the teachings of the past of the past, because that's reflective, and to see the glean from as well. So the stories and metaphors that we have available to us in any of the stories of the, I don't know, I was going to say the creation, but that's also creation as well, is a story of wisdom. It's a story that can be roadmaps for how and what we do and how we live our life. Michael Meade is a master at using story and metaphor of old stories to look at today's world. And it's remarkable how well he does it. So, as ministers here at the Home Center, we really try hard to give you inspirational messages and to not trigger people. But we're a unique crowd and we're a unique organization. We're not traditional. And so people that have been traumatized by traditional religion and still carry the wounds from it of being, the sinner and you're going to hell and all that stuff that they were taught at young ages. We try really hard not to trigger those, but we wind up getting quite a few people with those triggers because we're all looking for something new. We're all looking for something that speaks to our soul. We still want community. We still want to be with like-minded people. So just to frame that a little bit, we really do try hard. So if we do trigger you, just be patient with us. Come talk it through with us, and any one of us, Connie and Jennifer and I and Kendra are available to help walk through what that might be and how to come out the other side as a okay place to be in the world around that. So, because sometimes people get triggered by using the word Jesus. Other people don't want us to use the word God. They would rather we use spirit or the universe. These are all the things that I've dealt with, and I know some of the others have as well. And it's all okay. And I had a good question the other day. Someone asked me, where does Jesus fit into this environment here at Home Center? I said, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. And so I was able to explain to her that we see Jesus as a master teacher. I mean, he was like the king of metaphysics. I mean, anybody that can turn water into wine is a king of metaphysics in my book. I'm still practicing that one. It hasn't worked. So, but I know what the real truth historically is, I don't know that anybody knows. You know, the book was, a lot of the canons were written 200 years after the event of Jesus. They've been translated. I don't know, but I do know that metaphors are truth, and the stories and the archetypes. There's truth, soul truth in all of those. So I like to glean from that and not pay attention to what I can't decipher as truth, because I know stories are truth. What's behind the story? That was the way I raised my daughter. Anytime she read a story, it would be like children's little books about frogs. What's the moral of the story? And she still tells me what the moral of the story is as a full grown adult, because she got that training when she was little. Because there's truth. The frog might not be real, but the moral of the story certainly is. So I asked the other day in this question of where does Jesus fit in, and my answer, the opportunity in that he is like the master metaphysician. He said, you know, these things I can do and you can do better and you can do greater. So he's not putting himself in a position above us. He's saying you can do this too. He knew how to take the earth, the dirt, and energize it with energy and put it on the eyes of the blind man and bring sight. He healed the eyes through the earth energy and through probably something similar to what we know as Reiki today. Yeah. And, you know, we have a name for it in our time, and healed the blind. We can, you know, nothing says we can't try and continue to use that energy and heighten the vibrational frequencies where only wholeness exists. He knew how to calm the seas. You know, he was out in the boat and was getting thrown around and everybody was scared of getting drowned. And so he calmed the seas down. He knew how to control nature. He knew how to control the elements in that regard. And we can do this and greater. I remember being young, my mother reading a story out loud, but she was quite ill. And so she was reading books out loud. And one of the books was Rolling Thunder, and it talked about the Native American chief that was being harassed, the local people, and they came onto the reservation, and he created a tornado. He said, "You gonna leave?" And they said, "Well, I don't think I'm going to." So he said, reined the tornado in a little bit. And now are you gonna leave? And they're like, "Ah, yes." They left, so he let the tornado go. So those things are possible. You know, there's people know how to do those things. Some people, I don't, but it, you know, there's not. I don't know about creating a tornado, but it was good effect for the guys that were harassing. But he could feed, you know, could feed people with the feed the masses. He just manifested material good. He knew how to work with that energy. So we see the man Jesus as the master teacher, showing us what we can do, and greater. And as our soul awakens, we can have more and more of those kinds of events like Karen talked about. And one person's asking for something and the other person is inspired to take it over to them. Those will happen more and more as we continue to raise our vibrational frequency and to come more in the state of love and cooperation. So the metaphysical meaning of Easter and the resurrection is very interesting as I was exploring this, and it parallels some of the things that we know in science. And I love it when science proves things. My dad used to always say, someday the scientists are going to discover God and it's going to scare them to death. So, and it goes along with what Jennifer talked about last week about the cross. If you guys haven't had a chance to hear that message, I encourage you to go on Facebook and hear it. It was an excellent message about the cross. And so these kind of go in tandem a little bit. So in the Easter story, the process of the trial that Jesus went through, and then the suffering, and then the crucifixion, and ultimately the resurrection, can be seen as our own journey of the dark night of the soul. It can be a roadmap to that. It can be a process to pave our kind of our expectations of what we might go through. Has anyone ever had a really dark night of the soul? Yeah, I think we can probably pretty much relate to what that might be like, right? So I looked at the Easter story as a way of seeing, even in the hardest times, what we might go through in light and in grace and in spiritual transformation that might be happening for us. So starting out with the kiss of Judas, the sacred betrayal is when life as you know it and the way it has worked for you for so long is starting to come unraveled. And there's that moment, when life starts to unravel and going forward, it's not going to be the same. Good, bad, or indifferent, you don't know because you're stepping into the unknown. It could be a marriage that you put all of yourself into, your whole heart and soul into that marriage, and then something causes something to happen and you start becoming filled with pain and heartache. There might be a moment in your work, in your job. It could be with a family relationship where things are starting to change and you have that sacred betrayal that tells you this marks a change that's gonna, I don't know what it is. And it can be really scary. It's one of the hardest moments is when you're about to step out onto that ledge of the unknown and still maintain your faith. That ledge of the unknown called your life, and you don't know what it's going to be. You just know it's going to be different. So you have to really hold on to that faith and be like the Christ was inside, where he still continued forward. And then there comes the trial, standing before the judge. The story might be showing us that the judge could be, our partner in life. The judge could be our boss. The judge could be our family member, but the judge could be us that's judging us and telling us all the errors of our ways. Sometimes we are our own worst critics, our own worst judges. We're very often the hardest on ourselves. And then, and in your heart, you've really you've perhaps not done your best, or you could say, here's some ways that I could do better. But you're feeling judged. And that's really hard in those moments by the other. So Jesus had the capacity to stop the whole event. This is what's so interesting to me when I really think about it. In our story, he didn't stop the events that came after the judgment after the sentence was given to him. Because if we really think about it, he was such an amazing metaphysician. He could have wielded his energy to change the outcome. If he could wilt a fig tree, take the life force out of a fig tree, he could take the life force out of a living being. If he could put the life force into somebody, like to heal their eyes or raise somebody, Lazarus, from the dead, he could take it, he could move life force around at will. He could take it away and he can give it. So he could have done a lot of things. He probably, could have made himself disappear if he wanted to, using the energy in a particular way, but he didn't. He allowed things to unfold. He allowed things to happen in the way that they did. If he could control the weather, a tornado or with the rough seas, he could have done a lot of things. He could have made a lightning bolt come down or strike or something, but he didn't. He just allowed things to happen. He surrendered completely. So to me, that is a really powerful lesson that sometimes we don't necessarily see in the story. We see what happened to him, but we don't often think about what he didn't do. And I think that's as powerful as what he did do. He surrendered. He allowed the Father's will to be what we would call today, well, yeah, he allowed his Father's will to unfold. But I also want to point out that his mother was an oracle in the temple, and she was a reader, what we would call today as an intuitive reader. And so he surely his mother knew, sometimes families too close, that something was coming, something was going to happen. And he has still allowed it to happen. He didn't fight it, and he didn't fall into a keg. He didn't fall on top of the poppy seeds and take too much of that either. He said, "Thy Father's will be done." And he had the ultimate faith. So remember, Jesus, or Yeshua, as the name was the name of the man, but he attained an awakened state that we call the Christ. So we call him Jesus Christ, but it's not a first and last name. He was Jesus the man, but he became the Christ when he fully awakened. So the Christed one. So when we think about how this relates, when I think about how it relates to me and my own dark night of the soul, I can come to realize that the old paradigm was too limiting. So for all of us, when the dark night of the soul comes, it's not because bad things are happening to good people. It's because what life you had before was too limiting for your growth, and you had to reorganize your life. Some things had to move out. Some new ways of being needed to move in. We needed to step into a greater capacity of our soul, a bigger version of ourself that was waiting to emerge. And so it's normal to take down the old paradigm. This is most often experienced as suffering. It's most often very painful. And the metaphor of being nailed on the cross, that's a hard one. But to me, it's like the surrendering of the old personality. And, a cross is the human body. We have a vertical line and a horizontal line. So we are the cross. So to be nailed to something, to be nailed to the cross, is almost like being the hangman in the tarot deck. You just got to hang out. You can't do anything right now. You have to be in our journey. It would be to be in stillness and to just allow and not be doing anything. Just allow things to incubate, allow things to happen, allow the cells of the body to reorganize, allow the elements in our life to reorganize. So we just have to just be in that state. So it is that moment when he knows what is coming, and he says, so he's actually still in the trial when he says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." So he hasn't yet gone through the suffering, but he's at the trial and he's making a plea to God. They forgive them. They know not what they do. There's a lot of grace in that. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I wouldn't be so graceful. I don't know what I'd be doing. Don't want to know. Don't test me. But he's teaching us in this story about how to be greater and how to be allowing and to have that ultimate surrender. So to be nailed to the cross, so as I said, it's that balance of heaven and earth as well. It goes from heaven and earth, and masculine and feminine, that balance in all ways. And you have to just wait. So while you're hanging there, or while he was hanging there, he did cry out. He kind of lost faith. "Lord, have you forgotten me? Have you forsaken me?" And we do. When we're in that dark night of the soul and we're really down, it feels like we got forgotten by God. We feel like we got forgotten by the angels, and we're just alone, truly alone, but we never are. We are never alone. We've just forgotten that we're not alone, because we're so loved and so supported in everything that we do, in every minute of existence. Our angels can't take the experience of our dark night away from us, but they never leave our side through it. And they walk with us through it, all the way through, supporting and loving us. And then he was placed inside the tomb for 3 days. Well, this could be a lot of different things, but there's such a magical thing about the number 3. Tesla, for one, always works with 3, 6, and 9s. But it is also a number of creation. The Father, the Son, and or the Mother, the Father, and the child, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. There's something very magical about the number 3. But there's also something very magical about not eating for 72 hours, which is kind of interesting. When you don't eat for 72 hours, I learned about all the steps that the body goes through in those 72 hours. And they say at the end of the 72 hours, there's a like a surrender of the physical form, and it allows an awakening of the soul. There's a clarity of mind that happens, and a presence of the soul, that you can see and feel things in a spiritual way that is not allowed when you're eating on a regular basis. I thought, how interesting is that? That's what you do when you go on a vision quest. You go 3 days without eating. Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days. There's something magical about that 3-day period of being like in a cave, of inside of yourself, and then getting that clarity for when you come out. So Jesus shed his earthly personality and completely merged with his soul as a light being. He came out and he was a light being. So some version of this is what I believe, at least right now. I'm always learning, never know it all. There's always that next thing to know. But I believe that that's what we're trying to do as a collective. We're trying to merge with the light. We're light workers. We're light bearing people. Our lights shine. We use that terminology. We see somebody that's doing really well. They've had a great meditation. They're connected with spirit and they shine. And so we are becoming more and more light bearing, light bodies, is that term, rainbow light bodies as well. So I believe that Jesus and Buddha merged their physical bodies with their light body and became what we understand as would be God, an aspect, a bigger aspect of God. And if you can look at the story and the teaching, it kind of gives us instructions on how we go through their journeys to be able to allow more and more light into our being, more and more of our soul to be that light being and to be greater than what we came here. And as Jesus said, you can do this and greater. We came here to be bigger. We came here to continue to grow, to merge more of our soul, to express from that place of our soul's expression, and from something we didn't know when we were young. We didn't know when we were little, but that soul just keeps working to be expressed, and the light continues to shine, and it's really beautiful. So as we move forward in trying to become and becoming fully awakened, more of that light shines and more of that light shows. And that's exactly what it means to be a light worker and a light bearer. And that's our goal that we all are carrying, whether it's outwardly or inwardly. So let's go into a little meditation here and let's find that light within. So close your eyes, take a nice deep breath, and connect with that goodness of the soul that you know that you are. You are a good person. You have a light inside of you that is just desiring to come out, an aspect of you that is spirit, an aspect of you that is God. And embody that light, embody that aspect to be your fullest expression at this moment in your life. This moment is perfect. This moment is full. This moment is exactly as it should be, and fully embody it with your mind, your heart, and your soul. Let your heart expand. Let us join forces in this collective energy that we have here, this beautiful collective energy. As we come in community, we come with excitement to see and be with people of like minds, and let our light shine. And if there's any barriers that's keeping your light from shining, If there's any old wounds, just let them fall away, knowing that that light is shining so bright that there's no room for anything less than the value of what that light is. And just let it fall away. Let that be blinded by the light. Don't even need it anymore. Just let it fall down into the earth to be alchemized, to be processed as pure energy. And just let your light and your love shine, sending it into your tomorrows, sending it out to your family. Let them be touched in ways they don't even know. They don't need to know, because it's just what you do. It's just who you are. You're this beautiful light soul that just moves through the world, spreading the light. And it's not about you. It's just about being a soul and doing God's work. And for that, we are so grateful. Grateful that we can. Grateful to be here. And so it is. All right. How you guys doing? Doing all right? Okay. So, because of the broadcast, I'm going to invite Jennifer back up to give the closing prayer, and then we'll close our broadcast, and then we'll have an offering and announcements.
That's a beautiful message. Thank you so much. It was nice to get another different perspective of the story. And I invite you all to join me in our closing prayer. And as we close our service this morning, say, Creator, Spirit, we pray that the Easter story reveals to us that death is not the end. It's merely the physical event each of us will experience. Death does not touch the eternal essence of the divine that each of us are. We do not walk in fear or live in fear, as life is eternal. But the story of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, his final teachings, remind us that there is so much more to life. It is the divine reminder that everything Jesus was, we are, and more, just as he taught. Continuing our faith that we can survive anything, any struggles, any perceived hardships, because we continue to live on. We're part of the power of the universe. We are the energy of life. We are part of one eternal presence. And I pray that we celebrate our own divine, eternal selves this Easter. And I say this in deep gratitude. So I'd like to say thank you to those that have joined us online. And like Dick says, see you later.